All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Strong Life Podcast. I wish that you guys can see my boy's face, but we're going to get into the lifestyle here. You're going to understand why you can only see my handsome face and not my great friend, my mentor, not just in the business, but in training and life. Many of you that have really followed the story behind what I've done with the Underground Strength Gym, you know that I've mentioned many times Alwyn Cosgrove, just an amazing, amazing person. Any words I say really will never do justice. He is really one of the leaders, the innovators, really always at the forefront. And we're going to get into a bit of his life story here. Of course, we're going to talk life. We're going to talk training. We're going to talk business. And we're going to talk about why he doesn't have the computer that he's using doesn't even have a camera on it. And many people would think that's a bad thing, but I know that this guy really, he understands lifestyle. In fact, before the 4-Hour Workweek came out, Alwyn Cosgrove was telling me to do all the stuff in that book, and it's so funny because we always say Alwyn Cosgrove should have wrote that fucking book. So welcome to this episode of the Strong Life Podcast, and as I like to call my boy Uncle AC, he's just an amazing, amazing person. Let's get into this. Alwyn, what's going on, bro?
Dude, that's a ridiculous intro. Downhill from here, man. That's for sure.
All the pressure's on.
The podcast started that one of my staff, Rob Felty, I promised I'd give him a shout out because he's Zach's biggest fan and suggests that I study Zach and learn what to do and get it all figured out. So Rob, I'm learning from Zach right now. Hope you're happy.
He's learning now. Everything will finally fall into place over there at Results Fitness. Oh my God. So we have so much to talk about. I mean, you and I guess, quote unquote, met through the internet. This was I'm probably going to say 2002, somewhere around there.
Yeah, 2000. Well, I think it was probably 2003.
Okay.
Because I know when I got sick, and I know the timing on that, I was sick in 2004.
Okay.
So it was just before that through our boy Ryan Lee.
Yep, our boy Ryan Lee, and he had two of the.
Has he been on the podcast?
He has not. I need to do it in.
Disrespect.
I'm gonna do it.
Do that to him. That's disrespectful.
Listen, I'm gonna go to Connecticut to do a live podcast with him because I need to rematch him in an arm wrestling match.
He beat you?
Well, you know what happened is when I laugh.
Okay. No, he beat you. That's what happened.
Listen, when I laugh, I get so weak, and that's what happened.
Alright, this is I've never, when I was doing Taekwondo, I've never lost a fight ever, Zach. Sometimes, though, I've been behind on points when time ran out, and sometimes I got distracted, and that's why the guy kicked my ass, but I never actually lost either.
I hear you. This is like when my wrestlers tell me, they're like, I lost, but the ref ripped me off. I'm like, oh, really? Because I don't understand how that works, but I have a legitimate excuse that laughing is my kryptonite. If you make me laugh, I'd forget it. Anybody could beat me. So on some level, I have to have some sort of a formidable excuse right here. Now, you and I, listen, man. When people hear me talk about how Alwyn Cosgrove was my mentor, when they hear this, I get these emails and they're like, "Yo, man, I heard you had a mentor. Can I just come by and take you out to lunch? I'd love to pick your brain." And they think it was so easy to connect with you like that. And back in the day when you and I, and really anybody, was communicating, there was no I guess it was social media, but YouTube was not out yet. There was no ease to connect with people. Anytime we were in a mastermind of any sort, nothing was free. It was all paid for, and I really respected information, period. But when you paid for it, it was so different. And you and I, when you kind of gave me as Arnold would say, the advices. When you gave me the advices, we never strictly spoke about business. We always spoke about life, and you just mentioned, because people listening, they may not know really your story, but you were living out in California. You still do. Your wife Rachel and you guys had a gym, really a very innovative gym, something that those kind of gyms were not out back then. And you were diagnosed with cancer, some pretty heavy duty cancer, and you learned so much about life. And I always remember how you say, "There's I only have good days and great days." So talk to us a little bit about. I mean, I think you're a national Taekwondo champion. I know you were on the national team, and really, I know other stories of you kicking ass, as we've shared at over some good beverages. But you really learned to fight, and it taught me a lot about life, about running a business, about how much money is enough money, and what is important. And here we are speaking. You don't have a updated computer with a camera, and you truly. I feel like you truly understand life. So let's just, I guess, kind of talk some random stuff, whatever comes to your mind about what you've learned about life. Being
the thing everybody sort of like you touched on it there is that when we were talking back in the day, and I was sort of mentoring and coaching you, is everyone thinks that it's about business. You're not in a business to run a business, right? And you've really got to understand this. You're in a business to create a vehicle to give you freedom for your life, right? So a lot of guys will look at it's like you don't work out just for the sake of it. I mean, some guys do; they just enjoy the process. But the idea of going to the gym as an athlete, like I went when I was competing in Taekwondo, I went to become a better athlete. I wasn't interested in being, bigger or leaner or anything like that. I had an end in mind, and this was the tool I used to reach that end. Well, business is the same. You have to figure out the end goal, right? And often for some people it gets confusing. You've almost got to set up your business as if you were going to sell it, right? It's got to be systematic. Like if somebody came in and most personal trainers listening to this, if I came in and said, right, I bought your business, I'm going to buy your business. Well, without you in your business, who's going to run it? Who's going to do the training? So I'm not interested in buying your business and buying myself a job training clients 40 hours a week. I want to buy the business and have someone else do that at this point. So if your business isn't set up like that, you don't have a business, you just have a job. Nothing wrong with that, but you have to understand the difference. Right? That everything that I did at Results Fitness has been to create a vehicle for me to be able to step out of it. And a lot of the lessons learned, Zach, was when I was sick, because I realized, like, I remember sitting in the hospital bed and writing like program design templates and systems, because I realized, maybe you don't make it, right? Like maybe that's not what happens, and you don't come out, having beat it. Maybe you don't come, and then my wife has this business, this gym, that we don't know how to run it without me, right? We don't know how to run it without her. So I got a fast track on learning this stuff when I was sick, because it was you start realizing, right, everybody has this idea of stepping out of the business and they're going to the beach and they're just chilling and they're having a good time. Right, but what if you had to step out because you were sick or a family member got sick? And we've had to reschedule this podcast like 6 times because your kids keep breaking their feet and stuff like that. Right?
It has been a unique week over here.
So I'm like, but without the ability to do that, what if you worked for somebody else that you can't even take the time off, right?
Right.
So that's the idea, is that if you have to step out because of something, how does the business run? Right? And I always start seminars with, when people are sitting there, I'm like, hands up who made money this morning while they're sitting in this room waiting on me to get started. And most hands don't go up. And I'm like, how many of you own your own business? And all the hands go up. And I'm like, wrong. You don't own a business if you didn't make money sitting in this room. You have a job because it requires you to be there. And I don't mean that to be insulting. My dad had a job his whole life. He's one of the hardest working people I've ever met. But you've got to understand the difference. So once you understand that you have a business, it has to create income without your presence. And the only goal is, the goal of running a gym is not, you want to help people, you want to train people, but the understanding of running a business is it's about creating a vehicle for freedom.
Right. You were kind of forced though. You didn't go and train, I remember, for over a year. So you weren't ready for that. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure your wife Rachel, she just loves to train, so she's there in the morning. She trains a group of people, trains with them. But you didn't go for a full year, and you also had multiple streams of income back. Then I remember you had multiple different products. You had all kinds of DVDs, and ebooks weren't really out back then. You had physical manuals. And I remember, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, you're like, I don't really enjoy even making products anymore. So you said, I will just be an affiliate of the products I believe in, products that I, would rather use.
That's an interesting thing because obviously I couldn't go in and train any clients. I couldn't even train my staff. I was just doing chemo and stuff, right? So it wasn't like this awesome liberating step where I stepped out just to have fun, right? I stepped out to because I had to fight for my life, really, right? So that took care of that. Rachel was still going in the gym a little bit then. That was 04, and then 05 I went back in it, and then 06 I relapsed, and that's the year I had the transplant. And then 06, 07 I didn't work at all. And then what happened, Zach, is some of the consulting picked up and the speaking, and as much as I loved our clients and some of the people that come in and some of the kids, the travel schedule started to pick up, and I started to have more opportunities, and it would be doing them a disservice if I was to take over their training and be gone every other week,
Right.
So I realized then that my role had changed, and my job was to train my staff and maybe do some speaking and presenting. And what happened with the product stuff is I had a fat loss manual, I had some DVDs, and it was our mutual friend Craig Ballantyne. He wrote something, and I got an email from him, and he just launched, I think it was like turbulence training for apps. It was a long time ago. And as I read his email, he talked about that he got the idea at like 8 at night, and he stayed up all night long,
right,
shooting video and doing pictures and writing the manual. And it's funny, I could feel the passion in that email. Do you know what I mean? When you're reading it, you're like, this guy's for real.
Right.
Like, he's up all night just desperate to get this information out to people. And the more I read it, I just started to feel uneasy because I didn't have that passion for writing workout manuals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It just stuck in my head that like the excitement I felt when I was coaching you with your business and helping Eric Cressy with his business and helping guys with the business is real, man. I just love it. And doing like workout manuals and programs for like ebooks and manuals, I've never felt that passion. And when I saw Craig's Zach, when he was so passionate about this, it made me uneasy because I'm like, I'm not bringing that type of passion to the product. And then my decision was, I'm not like, my mentorship is one of the best on the planet.
Yep.
Right? When I'm your business coach, it's one of the best experiences on the planet. Right? I don't care who you mention. When we're doing that stuff, we're awesome. I couldn't bring that passion to workout books, and I couldn't do that to my followers. So I said, pick up your bodyweight bodybuilding. When I read that, it's the same thing in your new book you just sent me. It's the same thing. Like it starts with a passion, man, and I couldn't fake it for writing like a workout book anymore. I don't want, our programs in the gym are awesome. I'm sure I could write good programs. I just wasn't excited to do that. And that's part of the lifestyle design too. Like, I'm not, it makes money, but if I'm unhappy, I'm not doing it.
I think it's
You
part of.
listen to Josh Henkin talk about
Yeah.
sandbags, man. It's like he's preaching, you know. Like he's just so he loves it, and the passion just shines through.
Yep.
And you're like, as much as I understand the sandbag system, and we use it a lot, I'd be a fraud if I was standing in front of a group talking about sandbag training and acting like I was passionate. Like, because nothing can match Josh with that.
Yeah.
So part of it is that is like I only want to bring great stuff to you know, people who are interested in what I have, so that I can say, this is awesome stuff, man. This is great. This is the best I've got, and I was truly passionate in creating it. But also in the time taken to do that, I just wanted to enjoy the process myself.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember, you know, like when you went into remission, and you and I were talking on the phone, or maybe we were text messaging.
AOL Instant Messenger, maybe.
It was a long time ago, but you were shopping for a house, and you're like, who else does that shit when the doctor said that they ain't gonna make it?
That's a lot of people don't know this. The house that we live in right now, I didn't get to visit it until we bought it. Right, I just saw pictures in the hospital bed, and Rachel's like, "What do you think of this one?" I'm like, "That's cool, looks good, I like it." And then like I remember it because it was during the World Cup. I got out, and then we moved to the house, and the first time I really saw it was the day we moved in. And I'm like, you gotta be nuts, man. You're getting chemo and you're talking to realtors. What's wrong with me?
But don't you know? It's you evolved, and you allowed, like, you trusted your gut instincts. Like some people, when they stop enjoying something, they're like, they continue to do it, and like what you said, you do a disservice. You know, what do you say to people when you know, some people will probably tell you, hey man, I love to train people, I want to do all the training. Deep down, you and I know that there's kind of like a certain number of hours that you kind of hit a wall before your training is effective, meaning you can't, when you're a coach, you can't be awesome all 8, 9, 10 sessions a day happening at your gym. You know, I help coaches too, especially guys that want like those smaller warehouse gyms. And what I tell them is, yeah, there has to be a system, and you can't be the only person running it. What are some of the things you tell people, just for, you know, whatever, something happens to somebody in their family or something happens to them, and treating it like a business? What are some like critical tips that you want to get the point across to these coaches?
Well, you always come from a position of a positive angle, right? Like you're doing. I remember when you first started, Zach. I said you're doing great work with these kids, but you had a full-time job. And I'm like, so you're doing, like, let's say it was one-on-one. I know you never really did that.
Right.
Let's say it's one-on-one in the beginning, and you're doing 30 hours a week. How good is that 30th session compared to that first one? Exactly. With perfect nutrition, perfect sleep, and no stress at all in your life, how good is it? It's not as good as the first one. That's not fair on that client. That's not fair on that kid, because you can't bring your best. You just can't. There's only so many hours you can do. Now, you can reach more people if you go to a small group, but there's still a number of hours that you're not bringing your best anymore. Now, occasionally, like, you want to work in it, like, there's got some extra clients one week, or there's a wrestling tournament coming up, you can push it a little bit. But in general, you've only got so much energy you can bring. So that's the first part, is you're doing clients a disservice if you can't bring the same energy to everything. I don't care how good you are. That 8 p.m. client on a Friday night when you started at 5 a.m. on a Monday, that client, you're excited if they call and go, hey, I'm not going to make it, right? You're excited to go home. That's not fair to bring that energy.
Yep.
The other thing is, when you're doing one-on-one, or you're just doing it yourself, right? Let's say you're doing one-on-one and everybody trains with you 3 days a week. How many people are you helping? 15?
Yeah, like barely.
That's not a legacy.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave that. I want to help a lot of people.
Right.
So, at some level, is Ray Kroc, who founded McDonald's, he could have just sat with one hamburger, making one at a time, selling it to 1 or 2 people a day, And people think of McDonald's as being like, you know, junk food, because you're talking to trainers, right? It's junk food, it's crap. But from a business model, how many people are happy going there? How many people have they helped?
Too many.
Right? Like, yeah, too many. I'm like, but that guy could have done nothing. And a trainer will criticize that as being junk, but you're happy to not make a difference and sit with your 15 clients doing a shitty job half the week. Right, it's the same thing, right? You want to help people. Let's create systems where you can help a lot of people, and we can replicate you. So, hey, your mom gets sick and you got to take a week off. Clients don't lose the training. Or you got to take 2 weeks off. You break your leg, you get sick, or God forbid you get stage 4 cancer and you're taking a couple of years off. Do your clients just stop? Right? Does everything just stop because it's all about you? Well, that's selfish, right? Right? Let's create something that can help people. So systems and business is about, from a positive thing, helping more people and growing and really making a difference. And it's cool to, like, I was talking about, like, Rob, one of my staff. When I look at my team, as long as they've been coaches, they're way better than I was at that time, because I was trying to figure it out by myself.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? I can just go, hey, you know, that didn't work. I've tried that. Like, I've got one of my newer guys. He's been a trainer for I think 3 years. Like, when you think about that, right? He started in 2011. Like, that gym, which was not my first job as a trainer, had been open 11 years before he even got into the field. His education is getting fast tracked right now.
Dude, they learn so fast now.
They don't even realize it.
Right.
Like, honestly, they don't realize it. Like, you know, like, I was teaching taekwondo classes in 1986. And, like, I can tell you about doing group exercise then, right? Some of my guys weren't even alive. You know, so it's they get fast tracked, but that's a good thing. Like, man, with my team, we can reach more people. With my coaching group, we can reach more people. But would it have been better for me just to stay in the gym and do some one-on-one training or some small groups and lower the reach? Well, that's not fair on anybody, right? So the lessons are always about, you got to understand, what are you trying to do? Is it just about making an income, or is it about, you know, creating something bigger than yourself?
That takes guts. Where, you know what I notice holds a lot of people back is I think sometimes people like yourself, your wife, some of our mutual friends, we're so used to just going for it that sometimes, at least I sometimes, forget what it's like to allow fear to control me rather than to harness my fear and go for it. You know, how do you approach that? Not just from business perspective, because we got people listening that are not coaches, but just life in general, is that you've always been very good at, you're adventurous, essentially. You go for it. You know, you guys are doing a lot of big things, from the time where you were managing a gym out in New York to moving out to California and, you know, with really nothing and starting from nothing. And you guys do work with Zappos, and I think Rachel is kind of like one of their, or your gym is, you guys are like one of their models. How do you talk to people about utilizing fear and being adventurous and kind of just fucking going for it?
Well, this sounds weird, right? So my mum passed away in 94, and in 95 I'd finished college, and I was coming over here to teach taekwondo and weight training at a summer camp. And before I left, my dad kind of sat me down and, you know, gave me one of those talks, you know. And he just said, if you get an opportunity in the US, you don't owe Scotland anything. You don't have to come back here. And it stuck in my head that the whole time, Zach, is that I couldn't go back and look my dad in the eye and say, I never tried. You know, that I never tried it. Like, hi, Dad, I'm back. Can I move into the spare room? Because, I realized if I was going back, I had to either lie and say I tried and it didn't work, and I wasn't going to lie to him.
Right.
Or I was going to try and it didn't work, right? But this is the fear thing, right? Everybody has this fear, but fear's just an energy, right? And the fear is when you're sitting there not doing shit. That's what the fear is. That's when you feel it. You don't feel it when you're doing something.
True.
So it paralyzes you, but the only place you can get rid of it is to make a move. Right? Now this sounds nuts. It's like when you're standing there with the school bully picking on you, you get two options: to do nothing and that situation remains the same, or punch him in the face. Right? And the situation's gonna change. Right? and your fear is the situation's gonna get worse. It's not, because you can step back to doing nothing again right away.
Do you ever?
So my idea was like if I'm going down, I'm going down. Right? I'm stepping out. Like if I don't open a gym, it's exactly the same as sitting here right now not having a gym. Nothing changes. And yeah, there's risk. You can't just be an idiot. That's why coaches are around. That's why, courses and mentorships and reading business books. That's why that's around. You're not going to be dumb. But, I mean, nothing happens until somebody moves, man. That's the idea. If you just want to sit in your room, and there's a risk today that you get in your car and never come home again.
True.
Right? You're driving a metal vehicle with explosive liquid in it, right? A flammable liquid, 70 miles an hour, down the freeway or through the houses if you're late for a podcast while you're texting, right?
I was just gonna say, while 80% of the people are texting,
right? So you're flying down there and you're not afraid of that. That shit could kill you.
True.
Right? People are like, oh, I'm texting because I'm all right. Texting's bad, it's bad, but I'm okay. I can do it because I've got mad skills, right? People don't have a fear of that, but you're scared to take a step out and grow your business. You're scared to go talk to someone to create a strategic partnership, but you're not scared to go to work and drive your car 80 miles an hour while drinking your coffee with one hand, texting the other, and steering with your knees, right? When you start thinking, it becomes ridiculous, right?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm gonna like go back and I look back to when I was in college. I remember always being afraid to speak in public. So what I started doing was anytime we had to present one of our projects, I would volunteer to present first because I wanted to get used to facing my fears. And of course, being mentored by you early, these things help. And you always said that if you're a coach and you coach other people, but you don't have another coach, then it's almost like you're a fraud. Like you don't believe in coaching. Like
you're a hypocrite. Yeah,
I think, whether they're coaches or not, we're fitness and you're a business coach. It could start at the most basic, at the most basic level of if you want to be mentored, to be coached, like buy an awesome book. Start there by learning from somebody, investing in the knowledge of somebody else. Start there. How I know you're always in a coaching program ever since I met you, and sometimes several coaching programs at once. What are, because I know some people are going to say, well, Alan has a taekwondo background. He was always a fighter. Then he had to fight through cancer twice. And I know people are going to be having these things. So what, things can you tell people like, hey, these are the books that you should start reading. These are the kind of choices that you might want to start taking to move your life in a more powerful direction. What are some books that you read, and what are some tips you would give to people to control their life, own their life?
So the first part, Zach, as you touched on it, is this attitude, right? Where I heard Dave Jack say this once at a seminar. It's a group of trainers, and he goes, do you practice what you preach? And everyone's like, yeah. He goes, hands up if you practice what you preach. And everybody's hands goes up, and he goes, what does that mean? And everyone's like, well, I train hard 4 days a week. I eat well, take my supplements. He's like, that's not what you preach. Next. And he keeps going around the room. He goes, what you preach is that if you have a problem in your life or an area of weakness, you seek out a coach and you invest in them to help you in that area of weakness. He goes, how many of you have a coach? And all the hands go down. He goes, and I was like, man, I wrote down in my book, everyone's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Like every martial arts instructor in the world had a martial arts instructor. every swimming instructor at one point learned to swim. No one, like, the training is a weird one because we're first generation guys. A lot of us, the first trainer they ever met was themselves. You know, like they didn't have a coach. So, and everyone takes that message as, I mean, you should hire a trainer. Well, that you should, because that is what you preach. But you should also start thinking about what areas in my life need work, and how can I invest in getting them better. So I think there's 3 areas for our field. Is you got to still study some fitness stuff, but you have to read the stuff that you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of people, I was listening to you and Martin's podcast, and we're talking about like the Bosu balls and the stability balls and how we kind of look down on that stuff now, right? But at the time that came out, everyone was still doing machine stuff.
Yeah, it was
when Paul Chek started introducing that stuff to our world, he was doing. I mean, it may have been an overreaction, the way trainers took it, but that wasn't Paul's message in the first place. His idea is that sitting down on a machine pushing a lever isn't training. We got to learn some other stuff. So you have to study stuff that challenges your belief system. It's something Martin actually said to me a long time ago. Don't believe everything you read, but also don't just read what you believe.
Yes.
You have to read some stuff that challenges your thinking a little bit. You have to read, like trainers right now are down on the celebrity trainer Tracy Anderson, who says you shouldn't lift more than 3 pound weights, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, right, that's something I disagree with. But she's also the highest paid fitness professional in the world. So there's something I can learn, right?
Sure.
So I got to learn something from that person who I disagree with.
What did you learn from her?
What is fitness? She connects, man. She connects with her people.
Yes.
She connects maybe better than anybody I've seen.
And I guess
she's not connecting with me, but I'm not her people, and she doesn't give a shit.
That's right.
Sometimes people are afraid to write, you know, an article because they're like, oh, Zach Evanish won't like this, man. I disagree with them. Well, I'll tell you a couple of things. First of all, Zach probably isn't going to read it. 2, if he does, he truly won't give a shit. And 3, if he gives a shit, then you did a good job, because now you've made somebody that you respect care. There's no failure there.
Right.
He either doesn't notice, doesn't care, or if he does care, it's a win. Right? You're not writing for him. You're not writing for me. You're writing for your target market. That's so right. What Tracy Anderson does is she connects with her people.
Yeah.
Right? And you, whether you like the training or you like the message or not, I mean, whether you're a Buddhist, a Muslim, or a Christian, somebody connects with that message to their target market. That's the stuff you have to look at. You got to look at things differently.
People worry about...
One category is always fitness. Yeah. The other 2 are business and mindset. You still have to study those.
Who are you studying in, like, what are some recent books or any kind of learning material? Because now there's so many ways to learn. How do you prefer to learn before I even, like, you're obviously, your computer is, I think, a Commodore 360.
It's an Atari.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm not I mean, I got a laptop for traveling. We got, you know, computers at the gym. We probably have a good computer at home. I just don't know how to work it. I'm just like sitting on the internet is not for me. I still read. I do. Again, I was talking to Martin. Martin and Rooney and I are on the road a lot together. So you end up, you know, talking. And he's old school, man. He likes physical hard copy books.
Yeah, me too.
And I still enjoy that. There's still something about it, but I have done a little more like the Kindle stuff.
Yeah,
because I can go on a flight with 200 books with me.
Sure.
Know? But recently, it sounds weird. We got a new car that has the Bluetooth in it.
Oh yeah, me too. I hate that thing.
Well, what I've done is I switched the phone off, but I can play the podcasts off my phone.
Yes,
I can play audios off my phone into it. So instead of just being CDs, that like the old days where you got to change it and stuff. So
yeah.
I try to do watching seminars on video is I have a harder time with that. I'd rather just go to the seminar. But CDs, audio programs, and reading are still my big two. You spend so much time in the car. I live like 4.5 miles from the gym, but that can be a 20-minute drive each way, right? So you got 40 minutes. I think there's something like a PhD is 900 hours of studying, right? So if you had an hour a day in the car, just listening to stuff, you could have a PhD knowledge in 3 years.
I always, when you and I, like when Ryan was doing all the fitness stuff, he had all those CDs of the month, and I never, you and Ryan always said, turn your car into a library. I don't want to say never, I'm going to say 90+% of the time I was listening to CDs. Back then you couldn't have there were no smartphones. You couldn't convert something to your phone, so it was CD. And I was always learning on the way to work, on the way home, and that was I just learned to leverage the time. But I love doing what you say, like listening to the podcast through that Bluetooth.
It ends up being quite. It's a powerful tool because you've got this downtime anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So you're gonna listen to something. That's the reality. That's what people don't see. Is you're gonna listen to something. You're gonna listen to talk radio, sports, music. You're gonna listen to your friend talking on the phone, or you're gonna listen to the traffic. Something's going in.
Yeah.
So this is one of my rules with the mindset stuff. Is your mind is like a garden. Everything that goes in there is going to grow. So you've got to be careful what goes in there. And the only way to stop the weeds and the shite from growing is to put good stuff in all the time and garden your mind.
That's
so
awesome.
When I'm like, I've got 30 minutes, like it sounds weird, I've got 20-minute drive to work. I've got 20 minutes of input coming in, whether I like it or not. Well, let me make sure it's some positive input. Because the world's negative anyway. Like the news has got to tell me about somebody dying or some kids in an accident or something like that. There's some negativity out there all the time, right? So why don't I switch the odds in my favor that, hey, in the next 3 years, I'll pick a topic and I'll have a PhD level knowledge in it just by driving in my car, just to and from work. Not necessarily going out for fun or going on a trip, just to and from work. When it's work time, start work when the second you leave the house until the second you get home, you're at work. Start learning.
Yeah.
No, and another rule is just, I used to say read an hour a day. I've actually changed it. It sounds weird. I tell people to read 30 minutes a day. Because if I tell you to read 20 to 30 minutes, you have no excuse. Right? The second that you do an hour, the next day when it's time to read, you're like, I don't have time. And you stop reading. So I'm like, set your timer, 20, 30 minutes. I think I got this from Darren Hardy. 20 to 30 minutes.
He's awesome.
And when it beeps, you stop. Even if you're really into it, you just stop.
Really?
Because I want to create a habit.
Yeah,
I don't want to just do one time.
I tell people, this sounds crazy. When I first started reading like heavily, regularly, not counting all the bodybuilding magazines, but when I started getting into, what we call self-development, was I bought Awaken the Giant Within. And it was the first time I went out to California, and I spent 2 weeks there. And the book is very big, and I don't know where I came up with it, but this is before I was even into, I didn't even have thoughts of running a fitness business, but I said, I'm just going to read 2 pages a night. And it's like that piece of advice where somebody says, just floss one tooth. Because once you floss one tooth, you're like, I'm just going to keep going. And 2 pages would become 5 pages and so on. I love to read now, but back then it was just, I started setting goals of that 2 pages I knew would take me 5 minutes. And it's amazing. Sometimes I only did read 2 pages, but I would go to sleep every night with much more powerful thoughts in my head. And I remember the success of my life, and just as a teacher and everything, took on a whole nother level.
Clients all the time, right? We just started something at the gym that rolls out in July. Is we call it the 100 workout challenge. Get 100 workouts in by the end of the year, right? Now, what this does is a few things, right? Because it focuses the client on the process. Right, that they're just going to work out 100 times, which works out at like 3 point something a week, right? Just under 4 on average, right? It focuses them on a process. The outcome will come if you just focus on the process. If you want to get stronger, like we want to gain 50 pounds on your squat, there's a whole bunch of things that you can figure out in terms of the programming. But you know what has to happen? Probably 50 workouts, right? Probably 100 workouts. So just start knocking off the process. So you look at Awaken the Giant Within, that's a huge book. How are you going to read that? You read it the same way you read anything else, 1 page at a time.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the idea, is that I'm going to only read 2 pages. Right? So the day you don't feel like it, you get 2. The day you feel like it, you get 10. But gradually, you change your world because you change your programming.
Yeah, you change, you garden your mind, like you said.
Yeah, you could read miserable stuff all day, and you can spend 30 minutes watching the news every night and just see all the misery in the world, because the news never has a good story.
They do not.
They don't think that's important for us to hear anything good, right?
I'm sure they hear us.
At the end, there's a little story about they rescued a duck from a building or something, like this, something like that. But generally, it's a miserable time. But I'm like, I'll ask people, have you ever seen The Simpsons? Have you seen Seinfeld? Have you seen these stuff? And I'm like, you studied something for 30 minutes, right? So why don't you direct that study into something you want to learn? And you find your own way of learning. Some people love they get a DVD of a seminar or an educational DVD, and they'll put that on and sit and watch it. Other people are like, audios are better. Some people like reading. Some people like ebooks. Some people like live events. I don't care what one you choose, as long as you choose one and you get to work.
Yeah, do what I don't. Kind of backing up to what you said earlier about the guy that's writing and he's worried about who reads. That's a big thing, regardless of whether you're in business or not. Is people are always worried about what somebody else is going to think, and I find that people are so scared to move towards what they love. Even with this, what you said, like, hey, if you want to go to a seminar, but all your friends like to read books on Kindle, then go to the seminar. Do the thing that you want to do. I think that's a huge. I just think that should be a huge thing that people are always moving towards in life, versus worrying about what other people do. And you probably heard. I shared it a while ago. The phone call that was recorded of somebody calling Howard Stern to give feedback.
Yeah.
He keeps
not necessary.
Yes, not necessary. And then the gist of it, he goes, the way I became an innovator was to ignore the common people. And people are so worried about numbers. They want, how many people are going to read my blog? How many YouTube people are watching? And obviously I could say that because I was there. But I learned that the success always comes most and the best when you're just true to you. And, Wednesday, I actually went, looked at a larger facility, and it was all turf. And I went in there and I said, this is what everybody's doing. Everybody's going with a bigger facility, all turf. And when I walked around, I just felt it in my gut that wasn't me. Not from fear, but that's just not what I was about.
Everyone's heard that phrase, right? Gut instinct.
Yeah.
Or gut feeling, right? You didn't have to study that and go, wait, what is that? Everybody knows that, right? That's real, man. You gotta learn there.
Yeah.
Right? You gotta understand that you'll get. The key is to not mix up excitement and fear, because they feel very similar. Right, but you're gonna get that feeling when it's right, and guys, if there's guys listening to this and you want to produce something, you want to do a podcast or write, like, stop worrying what other people think, man. Like, you're not writing for them, you're writing for you, and you're writing for the one person. This is something that I heard Craig Ballantyne say. There's one person out there right now who's has a problem, and you can solve it. And you're not solving it because you're too scared about what other people think. You could write something that changes their life, right? You could do something that you can become a person of influence and help people, but you're too damn selfish because you're worried about your feelings.
Yeah, or you're worried about, you're worried about the perfect and the details. And look, when I did this podcast, I was like, I don't know, how to get this thing onto iTunes. And everybody had, their other ways of doing the podcast. But I said, you know what? I need to start. I need to do it, and I'll let it evolve. Same thing with like a new, I have the certification. Well, I wanted to do something different, and I didn't have the perfect details. But I'm learned to not wait for the perfect details, and I just said, here's kind of the outline of what we're doing. Whoever wants to get on with it, and perfect doesn't exist. And we're not saying don't do your best, don't do the greatest you could do. We're saying get after it. That's
well. The reverse of that, Zach, is right. Let's write. Let me say I ask you to write a training program for me, and then you're like, right, here it is. And then I'm going to ask you a question. Are you done learning?
No.
Are you just done learning? Are you going to keep learning?
Exactly.
Well, you're going to keep learning. Well, this program isn't as good as it's going to be, right?
No.
So you better not write it then.
Yeah, that's
you better set me back 2 weeks in my training because you're still going to learn. And well, you're going to perform better this summer, and that'll be 3 days, and you'll pick up something there that will change what you do. So maybe I'll get my program in October. So the idea being is I don't want people to do crap, but do the best you can right now and understand you're never done. Like my gym's we're open for over 14 years now.
Yep.
We're not done. I'm still adding stuff
and evolving.
I'm still changing programming. I'm still evolving.
Yeah.
Like our whole system is. We started with one-on-one training, and now we're doing what we call it semi-private or small group 2.0, where instead of having a group of 3 or 4 with one coach, we have a group of 8 to 10 with 2 coaches, right? And the 2 coaches work together with all the people. That model didn't exist when I first started doing it. But if I was to wait to figure out that model, I'd have waited 12 years, right? So it's you reserve when you're doing your podcast. Like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. I know you'll get better the longer you do this, and I know I'll reach more people the longer you do it, right? And I expect it to get better because I know you'll keep learning. But right now, just give me the best one you've got right now.
That's
and continue to grow. Don't stop.
I think people owe that to themselves, just in life. I mean, I remember when I was a teacher, I always, meaning a teacher at the schools, but I always feel I'm a teacher. I always tell people I'm a teacher. But I remember I used to go to school and I'd be like, I'm going to give these kids like the best, everything the best. And I think you owe it to yourself. You owe it to everybody you come in contact with. I don't know what that quote is, but it's something to the effect of if you don't, give it your all, you sacrifice the gift, which is you. You are the gift. I know it sounds corny, but, I believe in that stuff. You just gotta give it your best.
Here's something that we heard a long time ago from a guy, Adam Urbanski, who does like internet marketing.
Yeah, I remember.
He goes, there's one thing that comes easy to you that is hard for other people.
Yep.
Don't discount that, right? And I realized that now I've worked on speaking and presenting, but I realized that speaking and presenting came easier to me than writing, right? That doing a live event, I was so much stronger. And then I realized that, that's the universe is telling you how to deliver your message, man. Writing is maybe not. We've got books and stuff, but I have a co-author on them all. Writing's not my strength, but I'm good at speaking to people. And part of that is just everybody has something that they're good at, and that's the thing they can't ignore, right? It's you like what we said. Tracy Anderson, she can connect, man, right? Like imagine if you gave her a good program. Do you know what I mean? It sounds weird. I don't want to insult her. With that level of connection, imagine her with your programming.
Yeah.
Right. That stuff's pretty cool. And you've got to understand that part, and it's your gift to the people who need to hear it or read it. That's the channel. You don't need to worry about the people who don't need to hear or read it. I posted last year when Lance Armstrong admitted to the drug stuff on the Oprah show. I posted something on Facebook that I'm like, hey, I'm going to tell you, that guy inspired me. He got me through some dark days because I don't care about the bike. I never even watched a race, right? That guy beat cancer and showed me it could be beat. And that got me through some dark nights. And I just wanted to give you another opinion while the rest of the world is shitting on him. that this guy inspired me. And people I don't even, because the post gets shared, right? So people I don't even know commented on it, talking about what an arsehole Lance is and how I must be a fucking idiot and so on. And I'm like, how can you be this angry about me telling you what happened when I was having cancer? I'm like, this guy inspired me when I was fighting cancer. And you're like, no, he didn't. He's an asshole. I'm like, no, he did. I'm like, you're not going to change my mind. So I'm like, I think it's funny, but that criticism or that negativity would crush other people, right? You know, they just like, oh my God, maybe you're right, maybe he is an asshole, and start questioning themselves. But that's just the sign that I believe what I believe, and I don't really, you know, I'm talking to the people who are excited to hear it and the people that can help, and I don't worry about the others. And it's just, you're doing the world a disservice if you don't spread your message. Right? If you're listening to this podcast right now, man, there's without getting all metaphysical on you, there's a reason that you're listening to it right now, and you're caring enough to invest in yourself and take the time, because it's not a monetary investment, it's a time investment, which is bigger than money, right? Money's easy, you can make more money, you can't get more time. But you've taken the time to listen to me and Zach, and you've you know, that's time for you to share your message too.
Dude, what? You've done all these seminars, you've done so many interviews, but I know people, they're always ask you about business. I always ask you about business, but you're just, you understand life. And what is there a question that like people never ask you that you're like, why didn't anybody ever ask me about this? This is what's really important.
That's actually something that's something I use with when I'm talking to people, Zach, that question a lot is I'm like, hey, what's the one thing that people should be asking you that they're not? And like mine is I tell them about where I grew up in Scotland, right? And I've started actually doing this more in seminars. So where I grew up in Scotland and some of the challenges we faced growing up poor, and then moving here with $200, getting stage 4 cancer twice, right? Just to make sure that you beat it, I had to do it twice. What's wrong with me, right? So I'm like, here's all my obstacles, right? And I was talking to a guy, and he last year performed better, and he goes, I don't think you understand why I can't grow my business. I live in Compton, and I was like, have you heard of Livingston in Scotland?
I think I saw you talk about that.
And I goes, I heard of Compton. Right? Growing up in Livingston, I heard of Compton. It's world famous. Livingston's not. I goes, if I can move from my roots and move onward and upward, I goes, you got no excuse. Because the question you should be asking me is, everybody asks me the how. Right? How do you do this? The real answer is why. Right? Once you establish your why, like that's the question is, why do you do this stuff? Once you establish the why, you're unstoppable.
Yep.
Right? Actually, a good book to read on that topic is Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
Why.
That's a good book to start with. See, like, if I told you that I run a gym, Zach, and we train people and get them in shape, that's not why I do it. I believe that it's the heart of everything, right? Every single thing in the world, whether it's a government, a kid's sports team, a family, there lies people, right? There's people there. And that person's life can be enhanced through a regimen of exercise and nutrition that can make everything that they do better. Everything that they do will be better as a result of my programs being in their life. So I can enhance every team, every family, and every government around the world if you just let me help you. And the way I do that is through Results Fitness and Results Fitness University. It's the why. So the question that everybody should be asking, and you should be asking this to everybody, is why you do this. What drives you? right? You could retire right now, right? You could just sell your ebooks and stuff, and you're still doing new things, a podcast and new things, right? There's deep inside of you, there's a why driving you on, right? And really, it's about, you know, how do you find your why? So I guess that you know, another one, like a less deep one, is like people. It sort of evolved over time that people ask me about business stuff and life stuff. That the why ties in with the life stuff, but the other part to really understand is that the product in the first place has to be good. Right? If you're not, I can help you with your business and I can help you with your life. But if your product is crap, right? If your training program is garbage, we have to start there. We still have to have quality in the product. So I think as I've gone into this sort of business guy and this sort of lifestyle, you know, guy, that people forget to ask me about the actual training. We bring in experts all the time to train my staff and continuously get better. So it's there's that part too.
I always I tell that those two things is people always want to ask me also about marketing, and I tell them, I go, really, you know, my marketing, you guys, just because you see so much of my stuff on the internet doesn't mean that it's anything crazy. I go, but look at what we've done for the athletes we train. We didn't just get results. We changed their lives and help them live the dream rather than dream of accomplishing something. And that's the best marketing, being great at what you do. And
marketing's just telling your story, man. Is the story any good?
Yeah, that's
right?
Exactly.
Is the story good? Like, and I hear people say, like, you know, I don't do. There's two things I hate when people like, my whole business is word of mouth. I don't do any marketing. I'm like, that means you don't really understand your business, because you've just handed it off to let people say what they want to say about it, right? Now, if you should be growing because of word of mouth if you're doing good stuff, but word of mouth is marketing, right? It's people telling the story that you want told. So if the story is, you know, that you do bad work, whether you like it or not, that's the marketing message, right? If you do great work, that's the marketing message. But your job to market is to share your story. It's just communication, right? And just get it into your head again that you not telling your story doesn't help anybody. Right? Like, you're just like, I don't like to market. I don't like to, you know, I don't like marketing messages. I'm like, good, help less people. That's all you're telling me. Right. Right? Like, we're like, if you do a product launch, is the product good? Yeah. I want everybody to buy it. I want everybody who needs this to buy it. So if you don't market and tell people that, you're not helping anybody. And it's just, marketing's gotten a bad rap. I don't know why. I think because people like see it and they see affiliate marketing, and for some reason, people are just so against, you know, anything that's salesy. I don't understand it. I've never felt that way. I go to the movies. There's commercials before it. There's previews for movies. I watch sports games. There's commercials. Like I've never had it's never made me upset the way it upsets people.
They say people love to buy; they don't want to feel sold. And
that's
if you
a good
just,
line,
if you just going back to what you said, if you just share the story and you connect with people, you know, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And that's why I love to show our videos and behind the scenes of what we do, because that's how they connect. They start seeing their story in, you know, somebody else. Look, Alan, I don't want to keep you, bro. I was already late, and for another that's a whole nother story about some bad business. But I learned from everything, just from that experience, what happened. You know, those things teach me a lot. But I want to let me just close out. Is there like one book, a general book that you would recommend that people should read? It could be about anything.
Right now, because I mentioned already, I want everybody to read "Start with Why" by Simon Sinek. Sinek. That's a powerful book.
I think they have a podcast too.
He might have, yeah. It's just get that idea as to understand your why, and then this is probably mentioned 1,000 times, and most people still don't read it. Is you got to read the E-Myth, and when you finish reading it, read it again, right? Because if you're running a business, it's about liberation, right? It's the book that it takes you from being a technician and working in your business to working on your business. And it's a classic. I don't know when it first came out, but the fact that I'm still talking about it, and I think I read it in the early 2000s or late 90s. It's just that idea of like the fact that you're a great trainer does not entitle you to own a business. It does not even mean your business will succeed. We've been open 14 years in this town, Zach, in Santa Clara, and every gym there's one gym that's sold 4 times that's still in its original place, but every other gym has closed.
Yeah.
So we're the only gym that's made it this long, and the other one I still count as being open, but we're definitely the longest running gym in town with the same owners for that whole length of time when we went through a real shitty economy, and part of that was this. Like I said, I got a fast track education when I got sick because I had to figure it out, right? You guys listen to this, you don't have to get cancer to figure out, scalability and business, and it's so those 2 books, Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, is a relatively new one that I think everybody should read, and The E-Myth by Michael Gerber is a good book. I mean, I got thousands of books.
Yeah.
Right. It's hard for me to now. Everyone goes like, "What's the one book?" Everybody has this singular theory of success, right? What's the one exercise? If you had to only pick one exercise, what would it be? And I'm always like, dude, I never have to pick one exercise because I have a human body, so I can immediately do anything and a push-up, right? I immediately can do 2, right? It's this weird idea that if I could narrow it down to one book, I'd have read one book, and you'd have heard of it already. It's just a weird mindset. Like, the answer is to start with those books, and every book referenced in those books you have to read, and every book referenced in those books you have to read. And a good rule is any area you want to get better at, like in anything, like if it's business, go to Amazon and look at the top 5 business books right now.
Right.
And buy them all. Read the top 5. And if you've read the top 5 in any area, you got a decent skill level, right? I refer everything to martial arts as a black belt's just a white belt who never quit.
So true. It's
so
the mentality.
You know nothing about business. Let's get your yellow belt in business. Let's just get some education in there. And I see a lot of I meet a lot of trainers on my sort of travels, and I see a lot of black belts in fitness who are white belts in business, they don't need to learn any more about the multifidus muscle. They just need to they need to understand how to. And some guy, like I always talk about, you got to learn to coach, you got to learn to communicate.
That's huge.
Talk to people, right? It's not. I don't care how much you know, right? Like, how can you communicate that to the kid?
I've met a lot of through the certification, through the years. I've realized that the coaches, they're smarter every year because of all the information that they could get so easily, but they have like you said, they're white belts in their ability to communicate, to coach, to have multiple personalities amongst different athletes, different individuals. Those are all, that's another unique talent that comes through experience.
To get into this, that Myers-Briggs identified 16 personality types. So one of my team, Elias Scar, put them into 4 basic blocks. So they narrowed the 16 to 4.
Yep.
Where you've got fact or relationship-based people, that they're motivated by more the science or the evidence. Another person is more motivated by the community and the culture.
Yep.
And they're extroverted or introverted. So you can have fact, extrovert, fact, introvert, relationship, extrovert, relationship, introvert. So when you've dialed in your coaching skills, these people are going to have to be coached differently. Not only that, the exercise selection, it should be different. There's a guy who wants to do 3 sets of 10 with increasing weight and see that scorecard.
Yeah.
Somebody else wants to do a sandbag rotation for time, right? I can give them the same. I can train the same stuff using different exercises and different stuff as opposed to sets and reps. I can use time or heart rate. I can change everything to coach them based on personality, and that's the power of the coach. Is that the wee ones coming in there?
My office tends to get. I tell you what, dude. You guys can't see Daddy's good friend because he's on an old computer, but Daddy's good friend is the reason why we have a house. So they're getting so big. Hey, shh. But you know what? I used to be.
This is live, uncensored, kids.
This happens. Ethan Michael, go get your foot cast on. You're walking around with a broken foot. Get your foot cast on now.
I don't name. He's in trouble. That's
So
how you know.
You know what I've learned? I've learned so much from you, but time is, when these things happen, I'm not gonna lie, it used to really affect me. You can't see Daddy's friend. His computer doesn't have a camera. No.
Yeah, I can see you.
Oh, so
Skype has that. I don't have. Hi. Hiya.
Okay, hold on. So it used to really affect me, but now, you like you said, time is the most valuable asset. You'll never get it back. Next year, this guy goes to kindergarten. They'll both be in school full time.
I'm gonna be in 3rd grade.
And you know what? I'm not gonna lose that time. And you taught me that a long time ago. And I think that's probably one of the most.
The example I always use, I think it's Summer's your daughter's name, right?
Summer and Ethan, yep.
Yeah, so since Summer was born, and you were asking me something, and I said, "Hey, dude, I'll give you $500,000, and I'll send her back when she's 21." You're like, what are you, nuts? I'm like, well, you just exchanged time with her for money anyway. I'm just taking it to its logical conclusion, right?
Right.
So there's a joke about the son comes home and says to his dad, what's the difference between potential and reality? And he goes, why don't you go up the stairs and ask your mother and your sister if they'd sleep with Brad Pitt for $1 million? And they go up the stairs and ask them, and they both say yeah. And he goes back and tells his dad, and his dad says, well, the reality is, the potential is that we're millionaires. The reality is we live with prostitutes. So it's the same thing as there's another joke. This is a key, actually. If you can use humor to explain a point, people remember it better. There's a guy goes up to a hot girl at the bar and says, will you sleep with me for $1 million? And she's like, yeah. And he goes, well, will you sleep with me for $1? She's like, no, what do you think I am? He goes, I know what you are. I'm just negotiating the price. Right?
I remember.
So people don't realize when I'm like, right, send your daughter away and for $500,000, you get her back in 10 years or 15 years. You're like, that's nuts. But you do it sometimes an hour at a time, right?
That's right.
Right, then a couple hours later at work one night, a couple hours on the weekend. That's time you don't get back.
No.
You don't quit your job and just never do anything. That's not really fair on the kids to have no food and clothes, right? But you've got to have some understanding that a business means you stopped exchanging time for money, right? And that's one of the biggest lessons is that if I told you that you only had 5 years to live, what would you change in your life? And a lot of people would change a lot, right? And I'm like, the scary part is you don't know that you don't only have 5 years to live. It's
Stephen Pressfield speaks about that in The War of Art. So there's I don't want to keep you, bro. This is I want to definitely, we need to do a part 2 where we really get after this life stuff more, because life and time and it's just crazy. And I love
to finish off then.
Yeah.
The homework for everybody listening who's interested in this stuff is write down what your perfect day would look like.
Always do this, yeah.
Right, just write down like from where do you wake up? What time?
How
Is it
do
an
you
alarm, or
yeah.
do you just wake up naturally? Where do you eat breakfast? Right? What would your perfect day look like? And then start trying to think of like what would that actually cost? Because often people are like, you know, it's the Office Space quote, like, what would you do if you had $1 million? He goes, I would just do nothing.
You do,
or you don't need $1 million to do that, right? That maybe your dream life costs 40 grand, and you're making 60 grand. Well, reality is that what are you doing? Why are you spending all that extra time making extra money that you don't need and not living your life? So it's getting some type of clarity as to what do you actually want? Is there what's the finish line? Is your goal just to make more and more money every year, and just hope that at 65 or 70 you've saved enough money that you can retire and you still have your health so you can enjoy it? You're not guaranteed that. Start living now, guys.
It's yeah, and I know you had that philosophy. I know when you got sick, it certainly changed much more. But you taught me that long time ago. You said, "What's your perfect day?" And I remember I was like, "I don't really know what my perfect day is, but I just want to start having breakfast with my family." And
yeah, it's not a major it sounds crazy, right?
That was the driving force.
That was your dream. Your dream was to do that. You're just killing yourself to do the one thing that you should be doing.
Yep, and so funny because when people hear that, they're like, "Man, that's the one thing that drove you to like stop working so much and stop being, teaching at the public schools." And I say, and you know what? I do that to this day. And now I start my certifications at 10 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. because on the weekends they sleep in. And I'm the one that makes breakfast. And I don't like to miss that breakfast. Like, it's just, I don't know why that's so important to me. And what is important to the people listening, it's like what we spoke about with the guy that's writing the blog. Who gives a shit what's important to everybody else?
There's no right or wrong with
that's
what's
right.
important to you, right? Like when I said Lance Armstrong inspires me, there's no right or wrong with that. He just did. Sorry if you don't like that, people. There's no right or wrong. There's only strong or weak. That every single decision you made in the beginning, Zach, either moved you closer to breakfast with the family or further away.
Yeah.
And if that's the scorecard, man, if that's the driving force, who am I to tell you that you could make more money opening your gym at 5 and missing it? Because that's not the scorecard, right? The scorecard is this. And everything that we did, every decision we made with your business and your life was based around, that scorecard.
Yeah. And I guess that would also be the same, like, I tell this to the people. I know we always say we're going to stop this podcast, but when I tell coaches, there's a couple things. Number one, you have an abundance mentality. A lot of coaches, they're like, this gym just opened up near me. This one, that one. What do I do now? I go, guys, my gym's in a 2 square mile town. There's like 5 different gyms in this town.
I have a CrossFit. If people Google Maps my gym,
yeah,
and if you go down, if you're facing the gym and you go down to the left and forward 20 feet, there's a CrossFit there.
Yeah, I think.
I don't do CrossFit.
Right.
So it's not going to affect me.
Do what you do.
This is the idea. Like, if a coffee shop opened across the street from me, does that hurt my business? People are like, well, no, don't be silly. I'm like, well, that competes for people's spare time, right? That's what I do, is when people's spare time, they come to see me, right? Like, the movies compete with me. The Super Bowl competes with me, right? When you start thinking like that, you'll lose your freaking mind, right? Yeah. So you can't do, like, everything competes with you. A sunny day will hurt you, right? Because people don't want to go work out, right? So you start thinking like that, that's just a negative spiral of doom. You should be like, man, if there was no, like, it's always joke with the guy who's like, wow, there's 50 gyms in my town, how could I succeed? Because there's 50 pieces of evidence that gym works where you are. That's awesome.
Right, and
the flip side would be there's no gyms in your town. I'm like, Well, you've got an opportunity to provide something that nobody else has. See, I see the positive in everything.
Yeah.
There's a guy who's like, there's no gyms in my town, it won't work. And the other guy's like, there's 50 gyms in my town, it won't work. Like, you guys swap towns and get after it.
It is that abundance mentality is huge. And then I guess piggybacking on that is you got to stop worrying about what other people are doing. Most coaches, they say, well, they charge this much, I can't charge more, or they train this way. How should I train? Another great book I have, the audio is Russell Simmons' Do You, where he's like, just be you. And sometimes, he's like, that's always, you come out the winner, even if, there's bumps along that road. When you are you are on the greater path to success. That's a great book.
I watched a guy I did an ECA conference in New York a few months ago, and there was a guy, I want to say Alvin Wiley or Calvin Wiley. Man, I'm embarrassed, I forgot his name. It's Calvin or Alvin Wiley or Bailey, and he taught a hands-on session before me that was like all like dance choreography. It was like a aerobics class, but it was like hardcore dance. And obviously, that's not exactly what I do at Results Fitness, Zach. You know what I mean? But I'm looking at this guy, and Zach, he's the best there's ever been at that.
It's awesome.
Right?
I love hearing that.
I'm looking at him, I'm like, how do you follow that? And I'm like, you can't follow that by trying to outdo him.
That's right.
That's him.
Right.
He's doing him. I got to do me. Right? Like, I got to go and be me. And all I can bring to that stage is authenticity. Right? I can't outdo him. I can't outdo that energy and that choreography because, again, I said it's like, it's not what I do, but I'm in there like, what can I learn from this? I'm like, this room is jumping because of this guy's connection and doing what he does best, but he's being real. He's being him. And I'm like, the lesson is I got to follow this guy with a completely different programming and a completely different like sort of presentation style. The only way I can kill it is to be as real as I can be. Trying to be him isn't going to work, and that's the idea. That's that Russell Simmons. You got to do you. You really have to. Just stop modeling like other people's personality and start bringing some authenticity to what you do. You
will never succeed trying to be like somebody else or anybody else. It's just not. You could kind of model the a bit of the path that somebody takes. But as far as who you are, what you are, how you do it, be you. And I tell people, I go, just like you had somebody call you an idiot. You think with me, always excited and fired up to do stuff, a lot of people think I'm an idiot for being excited. Those people might connect with somebody who's more monotone, more, level, soft-spoken. But that's not me. I could never pretend to even do that. And that goes for everything. It's... no matter what it is you do, like we're training an adult guy, and I just found out that he's like this awesome woodworker, carpenter, and he doesn't even work. His job has nothing to do with carpentry. I was like, dude, do you love doing that? He's like, I loved when I used to be able to make like custom-made staircases, and somebody would tell me to like repair their deck. He's like, I love that. I go, dude, if you really want to be happy, you need to, at the very least, start doing this on the weekend. And then that weekend will grow into something and it will overcome itself. But I was like, you're not, you're obviously not excited about life because you're not doing you.
Well, I was on Richard Branson's island last year hanging out with him.
Yep.
Because I'm a baller. That's how
You're a baller.
That's how I get down. That's how I play the game. But I asked him, everybody actually, what's the one piece of business advice? And I asked him, I was like, what's the one question that nobody asks you?
What did he say?
That's powerful. And he said that it starts with passion, right? No matter what you're into, right? There's somebody making a killer living and making a difference because of their passion. Like if you like superhero comics, you understand it's a multi-million-dollar business, right? With movies and comics and books and TV shows, it's huge.
Yeah.
If you like it, you can do that. If you like, collecting flags, there's somebody who collects and sells flags, right? Who's making a fortune. And it's sad to me when you see somebody whose passion is woodwork and carpentry doing something else because there was more money there. And like, you just gave up everything about life that's important.
Or they're just
for money, right?
Or they're just, it may not even be the money. It's just they're afraid. I don't have the tool. I don't have the saws anymore. This and that. It's, well, what if you just bought one tool that you needed, and then you did only a certain kind of carpentry until you make enough money to, get the next critical piece, the tools that you need. It's the passion is the ticket. I know. I remember when I started, it was, the name Underground Strength Coach was because people, that was not the thing to do, to train outside and to use stones and all that. And people called me idiots. And I remember I tried, when people were crushing the ebook sales, always writing about 6-pack abs and fat loss. And I was like, that doesn't inspire me. And, it's only 12 years later that some very cool things are starting to happen because I stay true to this, the way I love to train, the way I believe in. Of course, it's evolved. And also with the wrestling, people told me in the beginning, that's a poor man's sport. You can't do that. But I have begun to work with some really heavy hitters that love wrestling, that were involved in wrestling. And I'm really grateful that, even though here and there I veered away from who I really was, that I've learned to be strong and to stick with it. I
think there's you sometimes can get caught up in that though,
sure.
right? You see what's popular,
yes,
right? And you're like, man, there's money to be made in that area, and like you can make money in it, but as you said, you're like, I'm not gonna do it the way somebody who's passionate about it is,
right?
But there's an area of like the flip side. There's like, if there's somebody who's like, it's about real man fitness. Like we talked about that when we remember that product, Real
Sure.
Man Fitness.
Yeah.
And it was like a guy's got to work and he's got family and obligations. He can't be doing 3-hour workouts, on getting up in the morning for empty stomach cardio and doing body part splits 6 days a week. And I'm like, now there's a market for that. I'm not making fun of bodybuilders. That's out of the question for a lot of people's lives. Do we just ignore them and say, hey, you got to train twice a day, 6 days a week, or forget it? No, there's a solution for people like us who are busy and want to get strong and have good workouts without, putting that kind of time in. So, but you could be, not passionate and try to tap into that bodybuilding market, or you could be you again,
Yeah, and you don't need to have a successful business. You actually don't need lots of, clients, members, people. It's kind of like what you said. Like, if one person starts listening to you, that's, Gary Vaynerchuk said that to me. He goes, you want to know when your videos are important? I said, when? He goes, as soon as you get one person watching. He goes, because everybody's important. He goes, there's no such thing as this is only important when I get 5,000 views, when I get 100 page likes. It's important when one person invests their time to learn from you. Now, you've got that, obligation to give them everything you got. And I believe in that. I believe in that's why it took me so long to rewrite the book, is I kept doing it saying, I don't think this is going to change anybody's life. And I just kept going back and kept going back. And I was like, I want people to have this book, and I want them to just fucking freak out when they have it. That's the level I wanted it to be at. It still wasn't perfect when I got it out, but I was like, this is powerful. Time to just go for it. And
but you're allowed to keep learning, brother.
Sure.
Right? You're allowed to not be done.
And there could be
that you can't not do anything until you're finished learning.
Right.
Like send it out now, and you want to do a second one, you change your mind. That's all right.
Exactly.
Don't assume that the stuff that that comes easy to you. You start teaching martial arts lessons. You start teaching kids how to make a fist. Everybody knows how to do that, right? No, most people don't. They'll stick their thumb inside or stick their fingers out or something. Right? So you start with the basics. So sometimes you're like, well, I'm not even going to cover how to do a squat with the body weight, because everybody knows that. Well, no, you're doing a disservice to the person who doesn't know that.
Dude.
Right? There's people who don't know that, and they're the guys that are listening. You're not writing the book for the PhD guy in the exercise science lab. You're writing it for that wrestler that was you back in the day. Right?
Yeah.
Who was freaking lost in like a lot of the business coaching we do, Zach, is honestly I base everything around what would I have liked to have had when I started out, when I was freaking lost in the woods at crossroads trying to figure shit out.
People keep asking me this all these years. People keep saying, how did you start your gym with like no clients? And they're asking me the beginner stuff. They're just not asking me about stuff that happened past that like beginner time. Even though that information I put out through all the podcasts, all the interviews, it just shows me that there's so much information out there, but people are either missing it.
Yeah, it's flipped, right? There used to be a lack of information, right?
Right.
And now it's like I think I've talked to this before. Is when I was in college, you had to go to a physical library and search shelves to find what you're looking for, and then read it to see if it was worthwhile.
Yeah.
I remember going through physical journals to read about creatine in 92, 93, right? And think, oh, this is a crap article. This is a good article. And now you're like, if you put in creatine into Google, you get more than you can read in your life.
Exactly.
So now it's like a different skill set. It's not a lack of information. It's an overwhelming big amount of information, and really people need to filter it, right? You need some like. You need to almost know what to ignore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
or
there's so many ebooks and so many podcasts and so many fitness magazines and websites and so much research. What do you choose not to listen to?
You just
right? That's a skill set, eh?
Right. That's why I also believe in sometimes just going and getting a mentor and speeding that process up. I remember, I purchased a course and it was like $1,700. Maybe it was like $1,790, whatever. And I didn't realize it would be so in depth. It was something like 6 weeks, but we would meet once a week on the phone for 4 hours. And you and I always said this. I was like, damn, I would have paid double if he just would have given me 10 bullet points.
I remember someone asked me once, like, I can't remember what it was, and like, how many pages is that manual? And I'm like, I mean, if I double space it and spread it out, could I get double the money? Is that what you mean? I'm like, I want an index card with 3 things to do on it, and I'm like, that's the killer stuff.
That's right.
Like, how much would I pay for that guy to take that course and get all the experts in the world to read it and narrow it down to 4 things I could do tonight? I'm like, I'll give you another $1,700.
What price tag do we put on? I don't know, like Gray Cook teaching you how to like position your trunk and your torso to make sure you don't have to get back surgery one day. There's no price tag on that. Do you know what?
It's hard to understand the power of an idea, right? So let's say a client pays you $200 a month to train with you, and they stay for a year. So I gave you an idea, right? That gets you 1 client, right? That's 1 client. It pays 200 times 12.
The lifetime value, yeah, 24.
So that's 2,400 for one idea.
I've
right?
always
It gives you 1 client.
Yeah.
But does that idea go away?
Exactly. You keep doing it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you do that 1 day a month for a year, and that one idea is a $28,000 idea.
Yeah.
But what if you did it twice a month? Right? But don't discount that my idea was written on a napkin.
Yeah.
Right? How much can it be worth if it's written on a napkin? It should be a 16 DVD and 4 volume encyclopedia.
I don't know.
It's worth $28,000.
We don't want. I still use to run my gym, to market it, to grow my business, even the online thing. The stuff I learned from when you and I always chatted. I have those in AOL Instant Messenger chats printed out, or the emails. And I still, Ryan's first business course was $97. And I always laugh because I'm using that today. It's 7 years that the Edison location been going on. The current location, the new one, a little over a year. But it started out of the garage. So it's been like 11 years. It was 4 years in that garage. So a $97 product plus a couple hours spent with you chatting has been, we can't. It's been over $1 million of income because every year between the gym, between the online for over a decade, but it was this small investment, and people have to understand that there's things. You taught me that, and I always tell it to people at seminars. I go, don't worry about learning everything here. I mean, learn and absorb it. But your goal should be to walk away with one big idea that could really be a life changer for you and change the trajectory of your life, your business, and people. That is the big lesson right there.
Yeah, it's what's the power of the idea, and maybe like you touched on, maybe I have thoughts on that. I'll ask at seminars how many people learned something new, and then how many people were reminded of something that they already heard of and should be doing.
Exactly. That's big.
It's kind of like a trick because you either learn something new or you heard it before, right? So everybody should have got something out of the seminar.
Exactly.
Right? But I'm like, maybe it's more powerful to have been reminded of something that you should already be doing. And maybe it's, it's powerful to go back and look at some of those old courses because you missed something and you're also a different person right now. Right? You're reading it from a different point of view,
And I think, with the going to seminars or investing in some sort of product, I think that I feel that when people pay for stuff, they value it. That's just what I truly believe. And I think when, I've helped guys that have gone through my certification here and there, when somebody's hit a wall, they need my help. I help them. And there's one guy that I've helped several times, yet he's always in the same spot. And I think I'm going to have to tell him next time, the reason I said, I'm going to tell you everything I told you last time, that these are these things that you need to do, but you're not doing it. I think you're not doing it because maybe you don't pay me money when I tell you what to do. You don't.
It's got no skin in the game, right?
There's no skin in the game. When I invest in something, there's a little bit of nerves behind it. Even if it's a book that's $10 on Amazon, I've invested $10, and I always say to myself, now you got to come get an idea from this, and you have to make a return of investment of X amount, or I have to take some sort of action in my life to make it better. But I push myself to take act. That's why I like to invest, because then I have this self-obligation I give myself to want to take the action. And there's a lot of free information out there, absolutely. But when you put that dollar out there and you invest in yourself, now it's like game on. And if you didn't take action with that information, whether it's new information or information you're reminded of, like you're saying, it's your responsibility. Success is it's on
right,
you.
There's free information out there, right? For sure. But does anybody really think it's better than information that you invest in? Anybody really think that when you factor in the time of I remember someone was telling me it's funny, they cancelled cable or direct TV. I can get everything, all the TV shows I can get it online easy. And I'm like, well, you spend time looking for it, tracking it down, downloading it, and then I'm like, that's what I'm paying for.
Exactly, that
I'm
headache. Avoid the headache.
Send it to my TV.
Yep.
I'm not paying. You don't have to pay for cable. You can pirate stuff. You can find streams. You can download it. I know, but the time taken for me to download a fight, I could just give that money to the cable company and just say, put it on my TV here.
Time, dude. You're talking about time. It's like,
but
I think
money's a made-up thing, right? Here's what happened in the past. I had a bunch of cows and you had a bunch of chickens, Zach. And I thought to myself, I think I want some chickens. And I'm like, hey, Zach, can I get some of your chickens? I will swap you a cow.
Yep.
And you're like, deal. I'll get you 5 chickens for 1 cow. I'm like, that's a deal.
Jeff Martone still does that, by the way.
That's what he still does.
He does.
But then I need more chickens, right? And I come back and I'm like, right, Zach, I need another 5 chickens. You need another cow? You're like, no, I'm good for cows. And I'm like, all right. Now I gotta find somebody who wants to swap a cow for 2 goats so that I can swap you a goat for 3 chickens. right? So instead of figuring out that whole barter system where we exchanged what we had in exchange for what you had, we created a universal currency called money, right? Which is just the exchange of value, right? We put value on things so we can have a universal currency. So what I do is I provide the world or my community with the value that's my skills. And rather than them give me their skills, they give me the universal currency, which is money. And I use that to buy the skills and the services and the goods I want. So don't give money any power. Just understand it's a value transaction. If you have something of value that I want, then it is inconsiderate of me, and it's a poor mindset for me not to exchange some value for it.
And most...
Right? And that value is the money. And that just changes your whole mindset. Like I don't want your free shit, Zach. I want your most expensive, closely guarded, most lucrative ideas, and I will invest whatever it takes to get them. And right? Because I will show you how much I respect you. Your free stuff, that's worth nothing. That's what free means.
Yeah, and you know what most the valuable things, it goes back to the kind of the beginning of our conversation is they make your time better. Like you're able to bypass time wasting things, and that's what we never get. Your time, you get to utilize your time better. You get to spend time with the people that you love and care about the most. Your time is better when you've picked something up of value, and that's why I'm always like you always say, like, time is your most valuable asset.
Time is running out. Like it's
never get it back.
The only thing we can't get back. But like I always use examples like you've got a UFC fight. You've got a UFC fight in 30 days, and you can get ready any way you want. Do you want to invest in an instructor and good coaching, or do you want to try to find it for free on the internet?
Right. And then what are the results in the end? I mean,
everybody would take the instructor, right, and the fast track.
That's right. All the time.
So like that's the idea, is that a lot of the time when you invest in a program or you invest in something, it's about saving that time. Like yeah, you can download the shows for free, but a minute of my time is still worth something.
Hey,
right? I'm paying for. Everyone's like, I don't like iTunes. Is there another way to download this podcast? I'm like, yeah, probably you could find a way. But I'm like, iTunes makes it super easy for me.
Yep.
Right? I've got an app on my phone and I just hit subscribe and I get them all. Like, that's what I'm paying for. That get my own time back.
I think people, that's like one of the biggest things that people need to learn. That's what we're paying for. When a parent is worried about how much it's going to cost to train with me, or I'm 20 minutes further away, well, you're going to train with us maybe half as much. You're going to get at least twice the results, at least twice as fast. And I believe in that because I know that, I don't think anybody's going to compete against us, especially when it's come to training wrestlers. So, and that's what I'm doing. I'm saving their son. I'm not just saving them time, but I'm saving the things like the time spent being embarrassed, losing, the time spent it takes to get stronger and more confident, and all those things. And there's value on that because
they'll figure it out on their own.
Yep.
Eventually.
Sure.
Or they could invest with you tonight and figure it out by now.
Immediately.
Money is somebody who tells you something's too expensive just means that the value isn't there.
Right.
Right. There's an exercise that we do at our business mentorship where I have an envelope full of money, and I ask people how much they will. I'm like, you can make me an offer, and you can have this envelope. So the only question anybody asks, anybody who's smart, is what's in the envelope? How much? Right? That's like, you want to know how much that envelope is worth. You don't ask how much you have. You try to figure out what the value of the envelope is.
Yep.
Because if there's $1,000 in it, then anything up to $999 is a good return on your investment instantly.
$1 and $1 return.
You make $1, bang, right there. That's a good interest rate right there, 0.1% in 0 time. That's huge. And like now, if you spend 1,001, you lost money. But what you didn't care about was what the money was. You cared about what the value was, and that's the idea. Is training with Zach Evanesh is $300 a month, $250 a month, whatever, right? It's not that dollar figure. It's like, what is the return worth? What am I getting out of it? And that's what you've done real well with the wrestlers. This podcast is taking forever. No one's going to listen to this.
Nah, they're gonna. Hey, dude, it's you probably listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. Sometimes that shit goes on like 3 hours.
I don't know how Joe does it. I have listened to that, but I have to break it up.
Yeah, so I might break this up into 2 parts, but I want to get this out immediately. Let's. Can you give people where you prefer them to look you up and connect with you?
A bunch of places. The hottest place right now will be resultsfitnessuniversity.com.
Yep.
And you can go there, and obviously I have the Facebook page and my personal page, which is just my name. But it's Results Fitness University is going to be my new home. That's where all my stuff's going to be. Right on.
Keeping it consolidating and less headaches and less time to be running around on the internet and more time for you to just be to focus.
Like everything now, and my sort of goal, Zach, is to help a lot of people, but everything's about like trying to leverage my time a little better.
Absolutely. I always talk about leverage. It has been awesome. And everybody listening, if you're on the blog, undergroundstrength.tv, I will link up Alan's Facebook page. But resultsfitnessuniversity.com is the ticket. And he does live events. I know you do them through Perform Better. I'm not sure where else, so you could hit me up on whatever links you want. But guys, if you are coaches, then if you want to change your life, then you need a mentor. And Alan has been there for me since day one. And there's just, I couldn't, no words could describe how amazing he is at what he does.
We made a deal in the beginning, brother, that you don't pay me back. That's the rules. You pay it forward, and you've done a great job of doing that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've been doing the Lift Strong event. This will be our 7th one coming up this summer, and we did our first winter Lift Strong at the new gym, and it was crazy. There was over 100 people in that gym. It was really amazing. And that's another thing that those of you listening, take care of people, pay it forward, give them everything you've got. I always tell coaches on a scale of 1 to 10, give them a 20. That's really, how you need to do this. So thanks again to everybody listening. And if you're on iTunes and you have not given us a 5-star review, please do that, even if it's just a quick 1-sentence review. That actually helps the ratings. And share this with your friends. And appreciate you guys listening. All right, Uncle AC, I'm going to hang up a second here, so hold tight.